An unpopular opinion or not, but I love Telltale style games, to the point that Detroit Become Human is one of my favorite games of all time. But we're not building Connor today, or House Forrester, or anyone from the Walking Dead games. Today, we're building the most relatable video game character I've seen in a while. Mecha Man. If you guys aren't someone whose YouTube feed isn't bombarded by spoilers of this game, Mecha Man, otherwise known as Robert Robertson III, is the protagonist of the new Dispatch video game. Quick review. Game is just like every other Telltale game and only gives you the illusion of choice. However, it's well written enough that, like a good dungeon master, I don't mind them being railroaded. And if you think for a second I'm choosing Blonde Blazer over a tan baddie with a septum piercing, you're insane. Even if she wasn't dating Phenomena Man, who might I add is a beautiful himbo, I would never do anything to hurt him. Hello and welcome to Homebrew Heresy, taking all my favorite factions and characters and bringing them to life in 40k. Today, we're playing the main character of Dispatch. Dispatch is a game where you play Robert Robertson, who, after losing his Hulkbuster-style Iron Man suit alongside his Captain America physique, is recruited to serve as a dispatcher. Dispatchers are basically police call centers except with superheroes, and I've wanted a game like this for 40k for a while. So already, it's a deeply interesting concept, and I really enjoy how it's handled, though part of me kind of wishes that there was more. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's start at the beginning by covering Robert Robertson's origins and history. Robert was born the heir to his father and grandfather's legacy and the next inheritor of the Mecha Man powered suit. This suit was created by the first Mecha Man, Mecha Man Prime, and he would use the suit to protect the people of his city. Unfortunately, the first Robert Robertson would die in the line of duty, being killed by a villain. Luckily, it wouldn't be long until his son, codenamed Mecha Man Astral, would take up the suit and responsibilities of being a hero. Astral would serve as the longest user of the Mecha Man suit, and in all that time, he'd become a symbol of justice for all of Southland. Alongside all of this, he also became the founding member of the Brave Brigade, one of the first superhero teams in the world. This dude was so awesome that even without powers, he actually earned Phenomena's respect, which is high praise. Unfortunately, just like his father before him, Astral would be killed. This time, Mecha Man's death wouldn't occur at the hands of an enemy, but a former friend. Shroud, intent on betraying the Brave Brigade and killing Mecha Man, all in an attempt to steal the Astral Core, a powerful artifact that powered the Mecha Man suit. With his father dead, however, the next heir to the Mecha Man legacy would be Robert Robertson III, a notoriously bad kisser. And for the next 15 years, Mecha Man would serve the people of his community and defend them against the forces of evil. At least until Shroud resurfaced. His goal was set on ending Mecha Man and stealing the Astral Core once again. And as a dickhead reporter so eloquently put it, Robert would end up destroying his legacy. But let's put it this way. Shroud needed to get Mecha Man angry enough to fuck up, needed a numerical advantage, and wasn't even the one to face him himself. Plus, dude is like pushing 50 years old at this point. Nah, Mecha Man would have punted this dude straight into jail if it was different. But again, the only reason Robert lost the suit is because someone planted a bomb on the suit. And if it's revealed Invisigal planted that bomb, she's the exact type of woman I'm into. So after the destruction of his suit, alongside spending the following months in a coma and physiotherapy, Robert would return to hero work as a dispatcher. I think I'll leave it there for now since the story isn't fully released at this point and I think we've got everything we need to design this homebrew. So then let's get to covering Mecha Man's armor, weapons, and abilities. First off, Robert Robertson possesses peak physical human ability. Now, this doesn't put him on par with people like Batman or anything, but given some of the stuff we see him do in episode 1, he's not that far off. Of course, having a great physique is useless if you don't know how to defend yourself with it. And luckily, Robert does. Highly skilled in hand-to-hand combat, being able to defeat armed and trained criminals even when outnumbered. Though that's assuming he even needs to fight, as Robert, taking more inspiration from Batman, is a highly skilled ninja. And he's actually a decent hacker, being able to contend with supervillains whose whole gimmick is being smart and hacking. So while he isn't up there with genius level intellects like Lex Luthor, he's definitely multi-talented. And do I even need to mention his charisma stats? Like, depending on how you play this game, you get kissed by at least 3 superheroes, one of them being a socially awkward Omni-Man. But I'm sure you guys are more focused on something more impressive, the Mecha Man suit itself. The Mecha Man suit is a homemade power suit created by the first Robert Robertson, being an incredible tool to fight for justice. And this thing has been upgraded every generation, with the final version being a highly advanced piece of technology, being able to withstand small arms fire with ease, and even being able to survive direct hits from augmented supervillains. One of them even ejaculates acid on it, and it takes a while for it to finally burn through. And adding to the durability of the suit, it can activate with something known as the Astral Shield, which is basically an iron halo in 40k terms. And speaking of 40k terms, this thing also has a power sword. Generating a beam of condensed plasma, this thing can cut through seemingly anything. Not to mention the suit itself is fully articulated movements, making it able to attack from any direction. This is kind of how I imagine fighting the Eldar to be like. And speaking of, this thing has plasma shuriken that can blow up and cut into things at the same time. I don't know how, but that's basically how Eldar bullshit works, and honestly, I'm shocked they don't have it yet. Adding on to that, this suit functions a lot like an Astartes dreadnought with insane levels of speed, strength, and secondary firepower. Or if he needs to, the suit can even produce enough thrust to enable flight. Otherwise, though, Robert typically uses the rear thrusters to increase his movement and combat speed. And that's an impressive arsenal, but how does Robert exactly use it? Well, let's answer that by covering his methods of war. This can help us narrow down what units and playstyles we should focus on. Starting off, unlike his predecessor, Robert does not rely solely on the suit, but instead makes use of stealth infiltration to avoid unnecessary conflict and minimize potential threats. Though once he's inside where he needs to be and there's no other choice, he won't just use his mech, he'll drop it onto his enemies like it's fucking Titanfall. Once he's in his suit, however, it's a whole different story. Literally taking the fight to his enemies, the Mecha Man suit is able to withstand even the harshest frontline battles. Again, he literally fought off a small army by himself and basically won. And I know this may seem like a limited playbook, but when you're Mecha Man, you don't really need very many diverse options when you have so many tools for every occasion. Plus, even if it doesn't, Robert is smart enough to generate plans on the fly, even outwitting the strategies of his enemies. And just take a second here. If you like what I do here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure YouTube's Machine Spirit hears our prayers and sees our growing community. So then, with all that out of the way, let's get to covering which army we need to use to build this homebrew. But before that, let's give ourselves some ground rules to make this challenge work. Goal number one, for this homebrew, we need a full suit of power armor, one that's large enough and powerful enough to make us into a one-man army. For goal number two, we gotta be able to throw down in single combat even if we need to. Our suit is great, but it's not our only tool. And for goal number three, we're gonna need to be an excellent leader and lead by example in times of crisis. So with these goals figured out, let's see which one of our factions we can use and how to give life to our homebrew. And before I explain which faction I chose to use for this homebrew, let's go over some honorable mentions first. Space Marines were a likely choice given everything. They're great warriors in combat, excellent leaders, and even have their own power armor. Plus is a dreadnoughts like Brutalis and Bastilus. However, Space Marines are a little too super special, given the fact that they are transhuman. And as great as they are, Robert is only a human, and often underestimated due to his small size. So, it can't be the Space Marines. Next up, I consider the Tau. Their actual small size and mech suits gave me a lot of feelings of Robert and his mech armor. However, the Tau suits lack the full weight and power of the true Mecha Man, as even with all the upgrades the Tau suits provide, they still don't have the punch or sustain to match the suit itself, though their mobility is impressive. Instead, I went with the obvious and somewhat underrated pick, the Imperial Knights. These walking instruments of war and glory embody many of the same core tenets that make Robert such a great hero. Unlike most heroes in his universe, Robert generally does what he does because he's a good guy and wants to do good, even if it means being poor, which honestly might make him even more noble than most Imperial nobility. On top of that, just like most noble leaders, Robert's ability to rally and motivate his team is second to none. Dude can literally make a depressed Viltrumite feel better and make a D-tier Hydro into a semi-decent Hydro. And I'm being real about Waterboy. If you can get him out as often as you can get him up to level 3 easy in the first mission. Adding to that, the Imperial Knights come equipped with a host of weapons, with the Plasma Decimator acting as a decent plasma cannon, or the Energy Sword being represented by the massive train car-sized chainsword. I did that in one take. Altogether, any of the Imperial Knights could function as an effective stand-in for our boy, the Supa Dupa Mecha Man. However, given the focus on Robert as being both the mech and the man, I think utilizing the Canis Rex Imperial Knight model works best. How it works is whenever this knight is destroyed, our boy, Hector, spawns in as a character infantry model. This is by far my favorite mechanic in the game, and I wish all the knights had this ability alongside being able to customize the pilot themselves. Regardless, that's how I build Mecha Man in the 40k universe. Now then, let's get to writing his homebrew. House McCallion is a noble example of an Imperial Knight house not bound by oaths of glory, but virtue. Each pilot is an incredibly capable individual in both armed and on the ground, trading blows with even veteran guardsmen and often winning. What's more, House McCallion is renowned for its incredible piece of archaeotech, the Astral Pulse. This strange variant of the Imperial Teleporum possesses the incredible ability to perform undirected, cross-sector transport with impressive precision. Pilots of the Imperial House often arrive on a world or war zone days or even weeks before their set arrival. Their purpose being to climatize themselves to the environment and culture, alongside noting any weak points or potential routes to success. Once complete, and in tandem with the Imperial Fleet forces, the pilot will strike at these key weak points, exposing any fault lines of the defenses, and finally, in the heart of their fortress, summon their knight. This method has led to many victories on the part of House McCallion. However, it is also extremely difficult and dangerous for the pilot. Often to avoid rousing suspicion or chance of discovery, each pilot is isolated to one world or battlefield. As a result, many pilots have either died during their investigation or alone, surrounded by enemy forces. Either way, their part in achieving victory in a war zone will often go unmourned.